Well, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Jiujitsu2000 here today. I hope you guys are doing wonderful. I'm back with an interesting video for you. Today, you can see I have 3 Warrior X flashlights. I have the original Warrior X, I have the Warrior X Pro, and I have the brand new Warrior X Turbo. Now, in this video, it's my objective to talk about all 3 of these lights. I'm going to kind of talk about some of the specs of each one, and I'm going to compare them against each other and just show you the differences between these lights. So let's start with the price point. If we look at the original Warrior X, which is a fabulous light, the price point on this one is $129. If we move over to the Warrior X Pro, it carries the same exact price point. Now, when we move over here to the Warrior X Turbo, the price point jumps up to $149. Now, if we start back over here and we talk about the throw of these lights, and let me just tell you right now that all 3 of these lights have a low and a high mode. So if we look at the original Warrior X and you talk about low, it has a throw of 210 meters on low. When they came out with the Warrior X Pro, they improved on that and they got a throw on low up to 220. So they gained 10 meters of throw. When they introduced the Warrior X Turbo, on low the throw was 360. So quite a bit different on the throw, this Warrior X Turbo. Now coming back to the original Warrior X, if we talk about the high setting, we had a throw of 560 meters, which was remarkable. When they introduced the Warrior X Pro, they bumped that throw from 560 up to 600. And then when the Warrior X Turbo came out, it blew both of these out of the water by having a throw of 1,000 meters. That's almost double what the original Warrior X was. Now let's talk about the batteries here. This Warrior X, the original, comes with a 18650 battery that operates at 3000 milliamp hour. Now looking at the Pro and the Turbo, they both have actually a different battery. They both have a 21700 battery that operates at 5000 milliamp hour. So you got 3000 milliamp versus 5000 in these two. Now for some people out there watching, you might not quite understand what the difference is in milliamp hour or what that means. That's basically having a gas tank that holds a quantity of 3000, and these two have a gas tank that holds a quantity of 5000. So you have more fuel in the tank, so to speak. Now, if we want to talk about the specs of the light, we're going to start with the Warrior X here. We're going to talk about low of 300 lumens, which will last for 4 hours and 40 minutes. Now, if we move up to the Warrior X Pro, we bumped up the runtime to 8 hours, and we're still at 300 lumens. So we almost doubled the runtime at the same brightness level, same lumens. Now the Turbo, the low, they dropped that down to 150 lumens, but they increased the runtime up to 12 and a half hours. Now don't let this lower lumen level fool you. This Warrior X Turbo, they did a lot of things in the right direction. Now let's go back over to the original Warrior X and let's talk about the high setting. 2000 lumens. Now, to prevent overheating, it'll stay at 2000 lumens for 1.5 minutes, and then it'll step down to 600 lumens for an additional 80 minutes. So that's almost an hour and a half after step down. Now, the Warrior X Pro, they have a higher lumen on high, which is 2250, and they've increased the runtime before step down up to 2 minutes, so you get 30 seconds more. And then they have two more step downs, or 2 step downs, I should say. They step down after 2 minutes to 1,000 lumens, and then it runs for 100 minutes. So quite a long time. And then it steps down again to basically low of 300 lumens for an additional 23 minutes. So just the difference between the original and the Pro was the Pro blows the original out of the water on runtime. It's really did a lot of good things, and they continued on this fantastic performance with the Warrior X Turbo. They made the highest setting 1100 lumens. Don't let it fool you though. I'll show you later in the night shots. This lasts 6.5 minutes because it's less lumens. It doesn't get as hot as soon. So after 6.5 minutes, you have your first step down to 600 lumens. From there, it'll last 105 minutes. So that's over an hour and a half. Then it steps down again to 300 lumens for 27 minutes. After that 27 minutes at 300 lumens, it steps down a final time down to low of 150 lumens for an additional 52 minutes. This is remarkable what they're accomplishing out of this Warrior X Turbo. Now, if you want to talk about these lights, do any of them have strobe? The answer for the Turbo is no. The answer for the Pro is no. But the original Warrior X does have a strobe mode, which is fantastic. Now let's talk about IPX8 waterproofness. They all three are IPX8 waterproof. So all three of these lights can easily go underwater with no problems. You don't have any charge port covers or anything to worry about. These lights, I take them with me in the boat and I swim with them all the time. No problems at all. Now let's talk about impact resistance. Looking at the original Warrior X, you have 2 meters of impact resistance. They increased that when they went with the Pro. They have an impact resistance of 3 meters, which is phenomenal. This light here can take more abuse than any of these 3 lights. When they came out with the Warrior X Turbo, the impact resistance dropped slightly down to 1.5 meter, which is still respectable as far as impact resistance. Now, if you want to talk about the length of these lights, the Warrior X is 5.59 inches tall or 142 millimeters. If you talk about the Pro, it's 5.87 inches or 149 millimeters. And then of course the Turbo, we're dealing with 6.18 inches or 157 millimeters. Now the bezel diameter, which is this part right here of the head, okay, so we're going to measure right here. We're going to start with 1.6 inches or 41 millimeters. That got a little smaller, 1.54 inches or 39 millimeters, and then on the Turbo it increased to 2.28 inches or 58 millimeters. That increase in head size is what allowed them to go a farther distance with less lumens. Now the weight of the lights with the battery, all 3 of these lights are weighed with the battery. We're dealing with 7.69 ounces or 218 grams. Then on the Pro, it's 8.43 ounces or 239 grams. And then of course the Turbo, 10.37 ounces or 294 grams. Now the Candela rating, this number is the important number, which tells you a lot about the power of the light. And I'm going to talk about low first, and then I'm going to talk about high. So the low Candela on the Warrior X is 11,000, which is respectable. On the Warrior X Pro, it's 12,100. So not much difference on low in the Candela. A little bit higher here. But when you get to the turbo, they've almost tripled the Candela with less lumens because of this head. So your Candela on low is 32,400. Now Candela is a measurement that's more important, in my opinion, to determining how strong a light is. I think it's more important to think about Candela than it is to think about lumens. Now if you go to high, we had 78,400 Candela on the Warrior X. The Warrior X Pro Candela was 90,000. And then wait till you hear this. 250,000 Candela on high with the Warrior X Turbo. That's just crazy. It blows me away. The chargers. The original Warrior X came with the MCC1 charger, so it charged at 1 amp. And then both of these others, the Pro and the Turbo, came with MCC3, so the faster charger. Now this Warrior X had 2 modes of operation. It had a standard mode of operation and it had a tactical mode of operation, which was cool because when you go for the tail cap switch here, you could program the light to operate in 2 different ways, which was really cool. They did not do that with these lights here. They only have 1 mode of operation. It's low, high, and there's no strobe on these. Now all 3 of these lights have a battery level indicator through vibration. The first 2 lights, the Warrior X and the Warrior X Pro, it's exactly the same. So when your battery life got below 30%, the lights would vibrate once every 5 minutes. When your battery level got below 10%, both of these lights would vibrate once every minute. And when both of these lights got below 5% on the battery life, it would vibrate every 10 seconds or 6 vibrations per minute. Now they changed that with the Warrior X Turbo, and I like this change a little more. So basically what's happening is when the battery gets below 20%, it will vibrate once every 5 minutes. So not 30% like these guys. They allowed this change so that the vibration starts later. So you're not killing your battery through vibration. The second part is when your battery gets below 10%, it'll vibrate once every minute. And then when it drops below 5%, it'll do 6 vibrations per minute, 1 every 10 seconds. So very, very cool what they've done here. Now, if you look at the tail cap switches, they are definitely an improvement. You had the straight steel tail cap switch, then you had the new one with the raised ends here, so that if you were going to use a glove, you have the raised end to be able to do that. The original didn't have that. It was just a flat tail cap. Now on the third model here, you've got the raised edge here, but you also have this little groove that you see around here. That is so you can use the Odin type remote switches that lock onto the tail cap switch. And I love that. That's fantastic. So you're seeing quite a bit of evolution from the original Warrior X to the Warrior X Pro and the Warrior X Turbo. This transition and this change that we're seeing is remarkable. Now I laid these lights on their side. I want to show you the lenses. This first Warrior X, the lens is nice. It's thick, but when they made this one, they changed the head diameter, made it a little smaller, which allowed for thicker glass. And then of course the Warrior X Turbo, all 3 of these lights have very high quality tempered glass lenses with clear reflectors. Again, this big lens here makes this thing carry a tight pattern for long distance with less lumens. Okay, so we're dealing with the original Warrior X. I turned the lights off so you could see what's going on a little bit better. Let's put this on low. That's what we're getting out of the original Warrior X. So you have a nice tight hot spot and a big flood around that. Let's bump it up to high. That's the Warrior X, the original, on high. Same beam pattern, just more intensity. Okay? They did a good job. There's the Warrior X Pro on low. You can see it's pretty much the same thing, maybe a little bit wider of a flood. That's on low. And then there it is on high. Very similar to the original Warrior X. Let's take a look at that Warrior X one more time on high. This is the original. So the Warrior X on the left, Warrior X Pro on the right. There's the original and the Pro. Not much of a difference. But when you break out with the Warrior X Turbo on low, you can see it has a huge flood and a tighter hot spot. And that's on low. Let's bump this baby up to high. You see a wide flood. So you get a lot of peripheral light and a laser beam type tight hot spot in the center. Now let's take a look at the Warrior X Pro on high here. That's the Warrior X Pro. Now we'll bring in the Turbo. See the difference of the Pro on the right and the Turbo on the left on the hot spots? There's the Turbo. There's the Pro. Turbo. Those hot spots are much, much different. Now let's bring in the original Warrior X. We've got the Turbo here. There's the original Warrior X on the right. Very, very tight hot spot on the Turbo. And again, not to repeat too much, but they're doing this with only 1100 lumens. It's very, very significant, very remarkable what they've accomplished here. Okay, right now we're starting off with the Warrior X, the original. It's on low, and I can see completely across the river. Even though the camera's not picking it up very well, I can see very clearly across the river. Let's bump it up to high. This is the Warrior X on high, shining across the river. It's lighting up the whole far side. I mean, I can see everything over there. Very good job. All the way to the pole over there in the distance. So now we're looking at the Warrior X Pro on low. It does a good job. Let's put it on high. There we go. There it is on high. Definitely has a lot of light. Lights up the whole far side of that river. I can clearly see what's going on. See the power poles. I can see the little gazebo over there. It just does a really good job. The water, everything. And now we're looking at the Warrior X Turbo on low. It clearly lights up the other side. I can see the gazebo, power pole, and the other power pole, as well as the water. Let's bump it up to high. Again, this is the Warrior X Turbo on high. I can see everything over there. The tight hot spot on this light is much tighter than the other two models, and it has a wide flood also with a tight hot spot. It's a very nice beam. Very good beam profile here. Beautiful light. We are back on the Warrior X Pro again, just to give you a profile of the beam. It's on high. And back to the original Warrior X on high. Very nice. Warrior X Turbo on high. That beam pattern is wonderful. Very nice. Well, folks, that's all I have for you today on this video. I want to say thank you to everybody for stopping by. I hope that you got some good, useful information out of this video. Please feel free to leave your comments down below, like this video, share this video, and until next time, have a beautiful day, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.